Okay, I'm going to get started. So last week here was some of the feedback I got. I guess that's like 9 and 10s were 67%, 7 and 8s 30, 5s and 6 like 4%. If you're like in the 5 and 6, which is you're confused or you're not learning a lot, please ask questions. Like, I want you to grade it honestly, but if you're at that 5 and a 6 and you're not asking questions, then I can't clear it up, okay? And really the point of this summer thing is so when we get started, that these concepts become easy for you, especially at the beginning, all right? And so again, I love questions, and no one cares enough to make judgments about you. So just ask that. Some more details on the graphs. I guess I could go into the graphs a little more and on concepts. All right. Where did the review thing go? How did this happen? A slide just seemed to disappear. That should say review. All right, so I'll do it this way. It's easy. Could someone explain to me what opportunity cost is and how you might use it in day-to-day life? So you could hit I think there's a reaction button, or under participants, there's a button. If someone wants to raise their hand, you could just call out. How could you use opportunity cost, or what is opportunity cost? No one? No one wants to take a stab at it? Ian, any idea what opportunity cost is and how you'd use it in everyday life? What do you think, Ian? Something in the chat. Ian, you cannot hear anything? Huh? Okay. All right, Ian's trying to fix his audio. All right, Joe, what do you have?
The opportunity cost is it's like the second best outcome. It's the best outcome that you gave up when you made a decision.
Okay, and that's exactly right. Joe, could you give me an everyday real life example of that?
Well, the one you used last time was like coming to this class, you might have given up. Like I might have given up going to the gym, but I went to this class. So going to the gym would be the opportunity cost. Okay,
great. Now, if you're looking at this production possibilities curve, can anyone tell me, is this an increasing opportunity cost or a constant opportunity cost? Increasing or constant? Drew?
It's an increasing because the line of the graph is curved, and if it was constant, it would be like a straight line instead of curved.
Okay, so it's increasing for what Drew said. It's a curved line, and if it was constant, it would be straight. All right, Ryan, could you tell me what causes something to be an increasing opportunity cost? Why is this increasing?
I'm going to be honest with you. I thought I had an idea, and then Joe's explanation absolutely killed whatever idea I had.
Okay.
So
all
I
right.
don't know.
So we'll get you some help then. Charles, do you remember why we have increasing opportunity cost?
Could it be that your technology isn't suited towards one option or the other, or you don't have enough resources for one thing or the other?
Okay, the resources, Charles, was better. The resources are not easily adaptable, meaning making guns takes different resources than making butter. So the resources are not easily adaptable. If resources are easily adaptable, like pizza and calzones, then you have a straight line. Okay. Anyone remember one of the two shifters of the production possibilities curve? One of the two shifters. Got a couple of people, hands up here. All right, Joe, give me one.
An improvement in technology.
An improvement in technology is one. And Drew?
Change in resource quality or quantity.
All right. So those are the two, change in resource quantity or quality. So an example would be education. That would be a change in quality of resources. People immigrating to the United States would be a change in quantity, and then change in technology. Those are the only two things that shift the curve. Okay. We'll talk again about absolute and comparative advantage, so we could wait on that. All right. Could someone tell me, Aaron, point A on this graph, what could you tell me about it?
Honestly, I kind of forgot.
All right. Aaron, is there any of the points that you remember?
I remember like what they meant, but it kind of like slipped my mind. to
That's
be honest.
okay. That's fine. That's why we're going over it. Will, do you remember what point A was? Maybe not. All right, Nick, point A.
Is it inefficient?
It's inefficient. So point A would be unemployment. All right, that's an inefficient use of resources. It would be using your factory and only using half the machinery. All right, because the other half, I think I said like last year during COVID, we were only using half of the capacity in our classrooms. That would be inefficient. All right, and that would be point A. Colin, is there any other point you could tell me you would know what it represents?
Is that an X on the outside?
Correct.
That would be like the resources are like unattainable, like you can't get to that level of efficiency yet.
Right. All right. So X is, like Colin said, it's unattainable with present day resources. So the only way to get to X is change in technology or change in quantity or quality of resources. All right. And then could someone tell me what B, D, and C? Do you remember B, D, and C?
Maximum use of resources just depends like how much it's shifted.
Right. B, D, and C is using your resources efficiently. Okay. So anything on that line is using your resources efficiently. At B, we're just making more guns than we are butter. But we're using all our resources efficiency to maximize guns and butter. And then C, we're making more butter than guns, And again, we're using our resources still efficient. Okay? Any question on the production possibilities curve? No one? Okay. All right. The book and the summer reading, you'll come across positive and normative statements. And I just wanted to quickly go over them. Positive statements are based on facts. Like unemployment is 6%. That's a fact. GDP has increased 3%. That's the fact. That's a positive statement. So the positive statements are based on facts. Normative is like value judgments or opinions. So while you might say GDP is up 3%, that's positive, the value judgment would be President Biden's economic policy has produced a 3% GDP. That is arguable. Some people might think President Biden's economic policy is excellent, while others might not. Okay? So the normative is judgment or opinion, and the positive is facts. All right. Here's kind of where we left off. God bless you. Last week, absolute advantage. And I'll just go over this again, because again, we're having a lot of information. So it's the producer that can produce the most output. What do I mean? Who can produce the most barrels of corn? Who can produce the most guns? Who can produce the most cars, the most computers? That's output. That's absolute advantage. Or requires the least amount of input. So what's input? The resources to make the cars. All right. So the absolute advantage is who could either make the most output or use the least amount of resources to make either the cars or the computers. Now, a country can have both the absolute advantage, say, cars and computers. And when we do these, we're only going to use 2 products in 2 countries. So one country could have the absolute advantage in both. Comparative advantage is the producer with the lowest opportunity cost. All right? And I'll show you in a minute how to get that. And that would make sense. The producer who has the lowest opportunity cost is going to focus and specialize on that product. So if the United States has the lowest opportunity cost in cars, they'll make cars, and then Japan would make computers. You cannot have the comparative advantage in both products. Okay? And then countries should trade, all right? So if the United States has a lower opportunity cost in cars, they're going to make cars and trade them to Japan for computers. All right. Any questions on absolute or comparative advantage? Comparative advantage drives trade. That's what makes trade happen. All right. I'm going to give you, did I print this out in your thing? All right. So we're going to look at Kenya and India, pineapples, and radios. All right. It's an output question. How do I know? Because it's how many pineapples and how many radios these countries can make. Now, output, I remember the formula as, ooh! You might not have heard me, Chris. Oh! What is that? It's output equals other over. Output equals other over. So, ooh, what do I mean by that? So this is how I'm going to find the comparative advantage. All right. Let me just move this up a little higher. All right. So who has the comparative advantage in pineapples? I'm going to use ooh. So the other product for Kenya is radios, which is 10, and it says other over ooh. That's 10 over 30. Okay. And all that's saying is for every pineapple Kenya makes, they could be making 1/3 radio. India for pineapples is other over, the other being radios over the pineapples. That's going to be 40 over 40. Okay. All right. Now, remember, we said you're going to produce the lowest opportunity cost. So therefore, Kenya is going to produce pineapples. Why? Because it's cheaper for them to do it. 1/3 to 1. Any questions so far? Okay. Now, if you remember, I said you could only have the comparative advantage in one. So if I know Kenya has pineapples, I know India has radios. But let's work it out to make sure I'm right. Okay? So Aaron, if radios are 10, what's the other going to be for Kenya?
You said the radios are 10?
Right. So if we're doing here, the radios are 10 for Kenya. I said other over. So what would be the other? What's the other number?
30.
30. Right. Good job. So you go 30 over 10. Okay. And then India, the other is going to be pineapples over. So it's going to be 40 over 40. All right. So you got 1, which is lower than 3. And I'm just there showing you the comparative advantage. Okay. So again, if you were doing this on a test, you figure out one, you know the other country has the other, but I just wanted it was good practice and to show you. Now, I'm going to write it a little differently in a second here so you could see. Okay, so 1 pineapple costs 1/3 radio, or 1 radio costs 3 pineapples. Okay. Now, if India, which has the comparative advantage in radios, right? 1 is smaller than 3. We figured that out. What does India have to get for 1 radio to make the trade worthwhile? Think about that. Think about it for like 30 seconds. What does India have to get from Kenya? How many pineapples at least to make the trade worthwhile for India? Okay. I also should say, if some of these things aren't going to be perfectly clear, we're going to go over this again in class. So don't think like I'm not going to teach it again to you. So, Just hoping like if it's fuzzy for you here, the second time makes it a little clearer. All right, anyone feel they have an answer of what India has to minimally get if they're trading one radio to make the trade worthwhile? All right, Ryan. What do you
At
got?
least 2 pineapples.
Right, okay, at least two, anything more than one, but like at least, so I'd say anything more than one. Because if they got
Yeah,
one and a
'cause
half
then that-
pineapple, right?
Because if a radio costs 3 pineapples for Kenya to make and they can buy it for 2 pineapples, it's also good for them.
All right, correct. Okay, so Ryan like took us a step further. So you need more than one pineapple because if they give up a radio without trade, they get one pineapple. So they have to get more than one pineapple for the trade to be good. Now, Kenya, on the other hand, when Kenya gets a radio, it costs them 3 pineapples. So they're not going to trade 4 pineapples for a radio. That doesn't make sense. They could do it on their own. So Kenya has to trade less than 3. So anything between India getting more than 1 pineapple for a radio and Kenya giving up less than 3 and 2 fits here, as Ryan said, would be a good trade. Okay, so there's your comparative advantages. All right, so again, 1 radio costs 1 pineapple. Kenya's giving them 2 pineapples. That's good for them. Kenya, 1 radio costs 3 pineapples. Now they're only trading 2 pineapples to get a radio. That's good for them. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Both sides win here. Okay. Now, if the term of the trade is one radio is greater than 3 pineapples, okay, Kenya is worse off. They're not going to make the trade. Okay. Any questions on how to do this? The trade part seems to be the trickiest part of it. Anyone have any questions? You could just yell out a question. You don't have to raise your hand. Go.
Kind of a side note, but like, what if one country can't produce the product, then how do you know what the fair trade would be?
What do you mean?
Like, it says like they should make the radios on their own, but say Kenya can't make radios.
Oh, you're in that situation, like, so the question was if one country can't trade, can't make a product, yeah, then they're gonna have to trade something. But what we're doing, when we're doing these, we're assuming both countries can make the products, just one could do more efficiently. But you're right, like some countries don't have resources to make certain things. Okay. And then this is just what we talked about. 1 radio for 2 pineapples will benefit both. Ryan, you did a great job doing that. All right. And just remember, when we do the other over, and I got 10 over 30, that like the 1/3 and 1, that represents opportunity cost. All right. And you're always looking for the lowest opportunity cost. Now, if I just erase this for a second. Now, if they asked, which country has the absolute advantage in pineapples? Chris, would you know which country has the absolute advantage in pineapples?
I think it would be India.
Yes. And Chris, while I still have you, who has the absolute advantage in radios?
Also India.
Yes. All right. And all that is who can make the most pineapples, who can make the most radios. All right. Good job there, Chris. Okay. Now we have an input question. All right. Now the formula, remember, for output, it was OOO. Output equal other over. For input is other goes under. Now, how do I know it's an input question? Because they're not asking how many loaves of bread could I make or how many loaves of corn. They're asking how long it takes to make one loaf. So it's like how much, what resources, which time is the resource here, does it cost to make bread and corn? All right. Now, knowing that input is other goes under, I'm going to give you a minute to try to answer those 4 questions. For which?
Absolute advantage for some bread.
Yeah, there's a tie. Yeah. Okay. Will, who has the absolute advantage in bread?
Is it the United States?
Why do you say that? Will, what makes you pick the United States?
Because there's like less corn and for the bread, I guess.
All right, Will, when we're talking absolute advantage, we're talking United States, say, versus France. Is there a difference in how many hours it takes to make one loaf of bread?
No, I guess.
No. So neither has an absolute.
Okay.
Now, while I have you, Will, who has the absolute advantage in corn?
Would that be United States?
Yes, that would be the United States because they're spending 2 hours and France is 6. Okay? Does that make sense to you now, Will?
Yeah.
Okay. Colin, were you raising your hand for a question or to answer something?
Never mind.
You're good?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anyone want to raise their hand to tell me who has the comparative advantage in bread? Okay, Drew.
France does, because when you put the other under,
So that would be, the other would be 6, right? Under, you got.
yeah, under the 4. And that would result in less time than putting 4 over 2.
Okay. All right. Now, Drew, while I have you, if France has it in bread, who's going to have it in corn?
The US.
The US. Okay. All right. Any questions on the input question? All right. I think I have some more practice just to make sure we get this down. Okay. All right, there's 4 scenarios. The first thing I want you to do, like say for question 1, is tell me, is it an input or an output question? The second thing is who has the absolute advantage? Now, you guys are smarter than me, and that's the truth. But I would set up the charts like this. Just, use the information in these problems. Third is who has the comparative advantage, and whoever has the comparative advantage is going to specialize. If you do 1, 2, and 3, you should be fine. Okay, I'll give you like 4 or 5 minutes to do them, like a minute each. If you have a question or you're stuck, just yell out to me. Don't worry about it. Did I put the problems on the paper? Or do you need me to look at this?
I'm done.
I'll give you like another minute. All right, Nick, for question number 1, input or output problem?
I said output.
Okay, why?
I thought because the time was like a set value or like a constant value. You're just comparing how many haircuts and perms they can do in that hour.
Okay, perfect answer. Good job, Nick. Ian, who has the absolute advantage in perms?
All right, I got my audio fixed now. You said who has the absolute advantage in perms?
Yes.
Absolute advantage in perms would be Megan.
Okay, and how about haircuts?
In haircuts, that would be also Megan.
Right, all right. Excellently done. 2 perms, Megan, 2 perms to 1 for Sarah. Haircuts 3 to 2. Joe, could you walk us through who has the comparative advantage in perms?
I can try.
Okay,
I would
right.
say
for Sarah, Joe, what's the other?
haircuts too.
So it's 2 over 1, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay, and then what do we do for Megan?
It's 3 over 2.
All right, what's the smallest, which one's the smallest number?
Megan's 3 over 2.
Has the comparative advantage. If she has the comparative advantage in perms, who has to have it in haircuts?
Sarah.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
all right. You good on that? You feel good about that?
Yeah, that makes more sense now.
Okay, all right. Anyone with any questions on this one? Please ask. All right, I'm trying to get this. All right, Justin has 16 flats or 8 breaks a day. Tim fixes 14 flats or 8 breaks a day. Chris, is that an output or input question?
Output.
All right. Chris, while you're here and it's an output, who has the absolute advantage in flats?
I put Justin.
Okay. And why did you put Justin?
Because he's producing more flats per day than Tim.
Yes. And who has it? What's the other one? Breaks.
Neither have an absolute advantage.
Okay. Good job. Any questions on that? All right, just gotta give me a second because my computer, I think needs to be plugged in here. Okay, that should do it. All right. Let's. All right. Aaron, could you tell me who has the comparative advantage in flats and walk me through how to do it?
So for the first one, it would be 8 over 16.
Okay, so the other would be 8. And since it's an output, it's U, output equals other over, 8/16. And for tires or
It would
for T, whatever.
8/14.
All right. So who has the comparative advantage for flats?
Tires. I mean, T.
Which one's the smaller number?
Wait, I think I wrote it down wrong. Would it be J?
J has it for flats, because 8/16 is
Yeah.
smaller than 8/14. Okay,
Yes, sir.
all right. Aaron, if J has it for flats, who has it for brakes?
Would it be tires?
You mean T, yeah.
T, sorry.
Yeah, you're good. I should have put that there. All right, all right. Any questions on this?
I'm confused on how you know if it's an output or input.
Okay, let's, that's a good question. Let's go back to the question. All right, Justin fixes 16 flats. The question is, how many flats or how many brakes? And that would make it an output, because we're trying to see how much of a product we could do. But look at number 3. Hannah takes 30 minutes to wash dishes. We're not seeing how many dishes she could wash, so that's why it's an input. It's how much time, and time would be an input. Does that make any sense to you?
Yeah, that makes sense now.
Okay? All right. So one of the ways is, like, if the dishes are fixed, or the vacuum, or if they would say, Justin could fix a flat in 3 hours. So if the flat was fixed, then you know it's an input. All right. So I kind of pretty much said number 3 is an input. I think, are these the numbers for number 3?
That is the last one.
Oh, okay, those are the numbers for number 3, right? All right, let me just erase here. Okay. You feel you have, so this is an input, right? Do you feel, who has the absolute advantage here?
Kevin has absolute for both.
Okay, why does Kevin have the absolute advantage for both? You are correct, but why?
So you can do them both faster.
Yes, because here we're looking for the smaller number for absolute advantage because he could do them faster. Okay? Drew, who has the comparative advantage in this situation, Hannah or Kevin? And could you walk us through who has the comparative advantage for dishes?
Kevin has the comparative advantage for dishes because when you put the other under,
Okay.
let
Let me
you would
just-
have
So what would go for Hannah? 30 over what?
30/60, which would be 1/2.
Okay.
And then you'd put 15/45, which would be 1/3.
Okay. So Kevin has the smaller number, the lower opportunity cost. So you say Kevin has it for dishes, right?
Yeah.
If Kevin has it for dishes, who has to have it for, what is for vacuuming?
Hannah has it for vacuuming.
Okay. All right. Any questions on the input? Just remember, the input is other under. Any questions? All right. Let's do the last one here. All right. So here we have computers and TVs. We have American and China. All right. Ryan, who has the comparative advantage in, the absolute advantage in computers?
America?
Do you think, or do you know?
Oh, it's 1-to-1 versus
Oh, no. We're talking absolute advantage.
maybe China, right?
Now, absolute, it's an output question. So you want, America can make more computers than China. So it's 50-30.
Oh, my bad.
So then who has it in TVs or V?
Also America?
Yes. Remember, you could have the absolute advantage in both. All right. Anyone want to volunteer to walk us through who has the comparative advantage in computers? Okay, Drew, you seem like the only one who wants to volunteer on this, so go.
America has the comparative advantage in computers because you put 50 over 50,
Okay.
better than 40 over 30.
All right, so 50 over 50 is smaller than 40 over 30. Now, how do we get that? Again, computers is 50, the other is TV. So I take the other and I put it over, that's 50 over 50. Here, again, computers are 30, the other is 40. 40 over 30. I'm going to take the smaller number, which is computers, and that they have the comparative advantage, America. If America has it in computers, China has to have it in TVs. Any questions on there? Okay. The production possibilities curve and this comparative advantage is both covered in the summer reading. I don't think Mancu, that's the author, does a great job covering it, and it's why I wanted to go over it. Most of the other information in the summer reading is fairly straightforward, more like the socials, more like the positive and the normative. You know, like positive is fact, normative is opinion. Like more like opportunity cost, where they're going to give you a definition, even though he might not give the greatest definition there. So I wanted to make sure that you understood some of the things that are not clear in the summer assignment. So before I go to the next thing, which starts like the heart and soul of economics, does anyone have any questions on production possibilities and or comparative advantage, absolute advantage, and trade? Any questions? Colin?
So input questions are like how fast you can do stuff, and output questions are how much you can produce.
Yes.
All
But
right.
input could be also how many men does it take to build a car, or how many machines? But when you hear, Colin, a car or a bushel of corn or then you know it's input, because the output is being static or fixed.
Oh, so input questions have like a defined output, and output questions have a defined input.
Yes,
Okay.
it's a good way of doing it. Anyone else? That's a good job answering your own question. Any other questions? All right, I'll just get us a little started here, and then All right, so now we're going to talk about supply and demand, which is really, I was talking to Mr. Stembler today about supply and demand of teachers, but which is really the heart and soul of economics. All right, so we'll get it started today. We'll really put it in tomorrow. And that's chapter 4. So not only are you going to know the hardest stuff of the first unit, you're going to get a head start on the second unit, which, yeah, the guys didn't do too well last year. All right, so what is demand? Demand is different quantity of goods that consumers are willing and able to buy at different prices. All right. So, you know, demand is when you go into the grocery store, you're willing to buy certain things at certain prices. And as consumers, we demand products. I think demand's easier for the guys to understand because that's what we do. We're used to being consumers. Okay. So Bill Gates is able to purchase a Ferrari, but if he isn't willing, he has no demand for one. And me, I might want to buy a Ferrari, but since I'm not able to, I don't have demand. All right, now the law of demand. The law of demand states there's an inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded, meaning when price goes up, quantity demanded goes down. And when price goes down, quantity demanded goes up. Just giving you a little time to jot it down and think about it. I write the definitions. Now, here's what I want you to think about. Why does the law of demand exist? Why, when prices go up, quantity demanded goes down? So let's just say, why, when the price of Pepsi goes up, people purchase less Pepsi? Go start us off.
Can't afford it.
Okay, they can't afford it. I would say there is the purchasing power. Yes, that's definitely it. One, Colin.
The willing part of the definition goes away. The consumers don't want to buy it anymore.
All right, but Colin, what are you gonna do? Like, you drink, right? You're gonna just stop drinking liquid?
You drink other stuff like water or
Okay.
other soda, cheaper soda, off-brand soda.
Excellent. All right, so you have substitutions. All right? So far we've named two things. One is substitutions. The other is if price goes up, my purchasing power is less. Because now if Pepsi, say I used to buy 10 Pepsis at $1, if it goes to $2, I could only buy 5. So yeah, they're going to sell less Pepsis because I can't afford more. So we've got substitution and purchasing power. Can anyone think of maybe another reason? Anyone like donuts? Someone just yell at me if they like donuts.
I like donuts.
All right, you like donuts. Okay, stick with me. Are you hungry now?
Yeah.
All right. Would you pay $1 for a donut? Is that what a donut costs? Would you pay $1?
Definitely.
Would you pay $1 for a donut right now?
Yeah, maybe even 2.
All right, let's just hold you at $1. You eat that donut. Would you pay $1 for another donut?
Yeah.
All right, you've eaten 2 donuts. Would you pay $1 for a third?
Yeah, but probably not another.
All right. After a while, the value of that product becomes less, right? Because you're tired of it. So you guys then hit, here's the law of demand. Look at my little cute things on the bottom. All right. So you hit on the 3 things, and I'll talk about each of them more in depth. One is the substitution effect. As someone said, if the price of Pepsi goes up, I might buy off-brand soda, I might buy water, orange juice, Coke, who knows? The second is the income effect. If prices go up, I can't afford to buy as much as I used to. And the third is the law of diminishing marginal utility. That after a while, using the product over and over again is less satisfying. I'm hungry, 1 donut, 2 donuts, maybe a third. But at the 4th, probably only worth like 25 cents. Okay, let me just talk a little more about these and then we'll call it a day. So the substitution effect, Pepsi versus Coke. If the price goes up for a product, consumers buy less of that product and more of the other. I mean, that just makes sense. That's what you said. And it might be, you know, more of Coke and less of Pepsi, but it could even be other things. The income effect. If the price goes down for a product, now people could buy more of it, right? The purchasing power increases. Allowing them to purchase more. All right, so you have the substitution effect. And here, if the price of Coke goes down, quantity demanded for Pepsi is going to go down because people are going to buy more Coke. I'll give people like 30 seconds for this. Okay. All right, last thing, law of diminishing marginal utility. That's what we talked about with the donuts. In economics, utility is satisfaction. All right. And a little like eye exam test here. The law of diminishing marginal utility is that as you consume more units, as he was eating more and more donuts, the additional satisfaction will eventually start to decrease. Okay. Whoops, I'll leave that there for a second. Okay. Any questions on anything we went over today? We got next week flashing. Go, Colin.
Is the law of diminishing marginal utility what causes people to like buy in bulk? Because it's like worth more.
Yes, it's why, like grocery stores or why they sell it in bulk, because they realize that people are not going to buy more. You know, that they realize that as you buy more quantity, they're worth less. And that's why it's cheaper in bulk. All right. All right. You could do your phone or your computer. If you go to polev.com/Phil Bressler 635, I just want you to answer like 3 questions. Sometimes if I copy this, I don't think I can. So I'm going to go back there. Okay. Give everyone a minute to look at it. All right, the first one is, how much did I learn today? If everyone could just answer it, that'd be great. Again, it's polev.com/Phil Bressler 635. Give you another minute because it doesn't look like everyone so far has participated. All right. Next up, if you have any questions, please type them in now, because what I'll do is next class, I'll answer any questions anyone has had. So any questions that you've had on anything we've done, I'll give you a minute or so to type in your questions. I love questions, so please type in something. If you don't have a question, you could type in not applicable, NA. Right. Man. Okay. I'll answer next class how inflation. I hurt my back. I'm not very good. That's how are you? How does inflation impact laws? I'll do that next class. Okay. Last thing, any suggestions, any thoughts or suggestions on how to make next class or next session better? All right, when you type in your answer, either no suggestion or a suggestion, when you're done, you're good for the day. I will see you next Wednesday at 11:30. All right. I will try to slow down. All right. All right, guys. Thank you again. Slowing down at the beginning always counts. I will be better next week. All right, I will also send out the video. You couldn't get a friend to join you today, huh?